I'm going to read chapter 11, in which Phileas Fogg secures a curious means of this conveyance at a fabulous price. Before reading chapter 11, I'm going to talk about chapter 10. Foretold entered temples without taking off shoes, and it's so rude in India. So 3 priests hit Patriot, and then he ran away without shoes and his head. When he came back, and then he had to get on the train. And the train was about to start, headed for Calcutta. It was a long way. Indian Peninsula is very wide. From the Bombay, and the train headed to northern port, and then down to the southeast in Calcutta through the Ganges River, along the Ganges River. Okay, I'm going to read, and then Journey in India.
More than 80 Days by Jules Verne. Translated by George Makepeace Towell. Chapter 11, in which Phileas Fogg secures a curious means of conveyance at a fabulous price. The train had started punctually. Among the passengers were a number of officers, government officials, and opium and indigo merchants whose business called them to the eastern coast.
Passepartout rode in the same carriage with his master, and a third passenger occupied a seat opposite to them.
Francis Cromarty, one of Mr. Fogg's whist partners on the Mongolia, now on his way to join his corps at Benares.
Sir Francis was a tall, fair man of 50, who had greatly distinguished himself in the last sepoy
home, only paying brief visits to England at rare intervals, and was almost as familiar as a native with the customs, history, and character of India and its people.
But the Phileas Fogg, who was not traveling but only describing circumstances, took no pains to inquire into these subjects. He was authority about traversing on orbit
The globe, according to the laws of rational mechanics.
He was at this moment calculating in his mind the number of hours spent since its departure from London, and had it been in his nature to make useless demonstrations
For satisfaction. Sir
Francis Cromarty had observed the origin of his travelling companion. Well, the only opportunity he had for studying him had been while he was dealing the car and between two lovers.
The human heart really beat beneath this cold exterior, and whether Phileas Fogg had any sense of the beauties of nature.
The Brigadier General's words a treatment as compared to all eccentric persons he had ever met, nor was it comparable to this product of exact science.
Fogg had not concealed from Sir Francis his design of going round the world, nor the circumstances under which he set out, and the General only saw in the wager a useless
eccentricity and a lack of sound common sense in the way this strange gentleman was going on, and he was to leave the world without having done any good to himself or anybody else.
After leaving Bombay, the train had passed the viaducts and the island of Salsetta, and had got into the open country.
At the Kalyan, they reached the junction of the branch line, to which it descended toward the southeastern Indies by Kedal and Parr, and its passing forward. When they entered the defiles of the mountains to which there is the basalt place,
crowned with thick and verdant forests.
Phileas Fogg and Sir Francis Cromarty exchanged a few words from time to time, and now Sir Francis, reviving the conversation observed some years ago, Mr. Fogg, you'd have met with a delay.
The delay at this point, which would probably have lost you your wager. How so, Sir Francis?
Because the railway stopped at the base of these mountains, which the passengers were obliged to cross in palanquin or ponies of the calendar on the other side.
Not have deranged my plans in the least, said Mr. Fogg. I have constantly foreseen the likelihood of certain obstacles.
But, Mr. Fogg, for sure, Sir Francis, you run the risk of having some difficulty about this with fellow which had this pagoda.
Arturo, his feet comfortably wrapped in his traveling blanket, was sound asleep, and did not dream that anybody was talking about him.
The government is very severe upon that kind of offense. It takes particular care that religious custom of Indians should be respected if your servant or cloak.
Very well, Sir Francis, replied Mr. Fogg. If he had been caught, he would have been condemned and punished, and then would have quietly returned to Europe.
I don't see how this affair could have delayed his masters. The conversations fell again.
During the night, the train left the mountains behind and passed Nassik, and the next day proceeded over the flat, well-cultivated country of the Candish, with its
straggling villages above which rose the minority of the pagodas. This fertile territory is watered by numerous small rivers and limited streams, mostly tributaries of the Godavari.
Passepartout, on waking and looking out, could not realize that he was actually crossing India in a railway train.
And the locomotives, guided by English engineers, the huddled English corps. Throughout, the smoke often cotton coffee, nutmeg, coral, and pepper plantations while the stream curled inspired around the groups of
trees, in the midst of which were seen picturesque bungalows, the haris, sort of abandoned monasteries, and marvelous temples enriched by the exhaustless ornamentation of Indian architecture.
Then they came upon vast tracts extending to the horizon, with youngest inhabited by snakes and tigers, with fled at the noise on train, succeeded by forests penetrated by the railway and steel.
Haunted by elephants, which, with pensive eyes, gazed at the train as it passed. The travelers crossed beyond Milligom, the fatal country so often stained with blood by the sectaries of the goddess Kali.
Now far of Allabalough, with its graceful pagodas, the famous Aurangabad, the capital of the parachutes, the Aurangzeb, now the chief town of one of the detached provinces of the kingdom of the Najim.
Thereabouts, that for India, the Thugi chief, king of the stranglers, held his sway.
These ruffians, united by a secret bond, the strangled victim of every age in honor of the goddess' death, without ever shedding its blood. There was a period when this part of the country could scarcely even
Being found in every direction.
The English government has succeeded in greatly diminishing these murders, though the Turkish still exist to pursue the exercise of the horrible light.
Past 12, the train stopped at Burhanpur, where Passepartout was able to purchase some Indian slippers, ornamented with false pearls, in which, with evident vanity, he proceeded to encase his feet.
The troopers made a test before the end started off for Ashur, after skirting the furrowed banks of the small river Tapti, which empties in the Gulf of Cambridge near Surat.
Passepartout was now plunged into absorbing reverie.
After his arrival to Bombay, he had entertained the hopes that their journey stood, and there's the but now that they were plainly whirling across India at full speed.
Change had come over the spirit of these dreams. His old vagabond nature returned to him. The fantastic ideas of his youth once more took possession of him.
They came to regard these matters the project as intended in good earnest, believed in the lyric of the bat, therefore into the world and necessary.
Making it without fail within the designated period. Already he began to worry about possible delays and accidents which might happen on the way.
He recognized himself as being personally interested in the wager, and trembling at the thought he might have been the means of losing by his unpardonable folly of the night.
Cool-headed than Mr. Fogg, he was much more restless, counting and recounting the days passed over, uttering maledictions when the train stopped, and accusing it of sluggishness and mentally
Bring to Mr. Fogg's for not having sent bribe to the engineer.
fellow was ignorant that while it was possible by such means to hasten the rate of a steamer, it could not be done on the railway.
Now the train entered the two fires of the subterranean mountains which separate the Handish from the Blended Current.
Mrs. Cromarty asked Passepartout what time it was, to which, on consulting his watch, he replied that it was 3 in the morning.
And this famous time feast, always regulated on the Greenwich meridian, which was now some 77 degrees westward, was it?
Passepartout's time, whereupon the latter made the same remark that he had done to Fix, and upon the general insisting that the watch should be regulated in each new meridian, since he was
The conspiracy going eastward, that is, into pace of the sun. Therefore, the days were shorter by 4 minutes, which degrees one kind of over the Passepartout obstinately.
watch, which he kept at London time. It was an innocent delusion which could harm no one.
And the train stopped at 8 o'clock in the midst of the grade, and some 50 miles beyond Roswell, where there were several bungalows and workmen's cabins.
One of the carriages shouted, "Passengers will get out here."
First, Fogg looked at Sir Francis come out. The tolerance French, but the journalists could not tell what meant a halt. In the midst of the forest of dates and acacia,
Who, not less surprised, rushed out and speedily returned, crying, "Monsieur, Monsieur, no more railway." "What do you mean?" asked Sir Francis.
I mean to say that the train isn't going on. The general at once stepped out, while the 34 calmly followed him. They pursued together the conduct.
"Conductor, where are we?" asked Sir Francis. "At the hamlet of Golby. Do we stop here?" "Certainly, the railway isn't finished."
Well, not finished. And there's still a matter of 50 miles to the latest from here to Allabalough, where the line begins again.
"But the papers announced the opening of the railway throughout." "What would you have, officer? The papers were mistaken."
Yeah, you sell tickets from Bombay to Calcutta. The store to Sir Francis was going on.
replied the conductor. "But the passengers know that they must provide means of transportation for themselves from Golby to Allahabad." Sir Francis was furious.
Passepartout was willing to have knocked the conductor down, and didn't dare to look at his master.
"Sir Francis," said Mr. Fogg quietly, "we will, if you please, look about for some means of conveyance to Allahabad." "Mr. Fogg, this is a delay greatly to your disadvantage."
Ah, Sir Francis, it was boasting. What? You knew that the way?
"The way? Not at all, but I knew that some obstacle or other would sooner or later arise on my route. Nothing, therefore, is lost."
I have 2 days, which I have already gained, to sacrifice. A steamer leaves Calcutta for Hong Kong at noon on the 25th.
It is the 22nd, and we shall reach Calcutta in time. There was nothing to say to so confident a response.
It was but too true that the railways came to a termination at this point.
Like some watches, which have a way of getting too fast, and had been premature in their announcement of the completion of the line.
The greatest fault had travelers or awares of this interruption. On leaving the train, they began to engage such vehicles as the village could provide for wheels, for carries, wagons drawn.
Figures that looked like perambulating pagodas, pelicans, ponies, and whatnot.
Mr. Fogg and Sir Francis Cromarty, after searching the village from end to end, they came back without having found anything. "Let us go food," said the Fierce Fogg.
Passepartout, who had now rejoined his master, made a wry grimace as he thought of his magnificent but too frail Indian shoe.
Happily, too, had been looking about him. After a moment's hesitation, said, "Which I think I have found a means of the conveyance." "What?"
"An elephant! An elephant that belongs to an Indian who lives but 100 steps from here." "Let's go and see the elephant," replied Mr. Fogg.
And they soon reached a small hut near which enclosed between some high palings towards the animals in question.
Came out of the hut and at their request conducted them within the enclosure.
The elephant, with its owners, had a real natural beast of burdensome warlike purpose over half of it.
Already, by often irritating him and feeding him every 3 months on sugar and butter, to impart to him a ferocity not in his nature. This method
was being often employed by those who trained the Indian elephant for battle.
Happily, however, for Mr. Fogg, the animal's instruction in this direction had not gone far, and the elephant still preserved his natural gentleness.
Golby, this was the name of the beast. Could doctors travel at least for a long time in Norfolk before any other means of conveyance than Mr. Fogg deserved to hire him?
But elephants are far from cheap in India, where they are becoming scarce. The males, which alone are suitable for circus shows, are much sought, especially as but few of them are domesticated.
And therefore Mr. Fogg proposed to the Indian to hire as a Golby. He refused point blank.
Persisted, offering the excessive sum of £10 an hour for the loan of the beast to Allahabad. Refused. £20?
Refused also. £4, still refused. The patrol jumped easier when the Indian declined to be tempted.
Yet the offer was an alluring one, for supposing it took the elephant 15 hours to reach Allahabad, his owner would receive no less than £600 sterling.
Pierre Fogg, without getting it the least flurried, and then proposed to purchase the animal outright at first offer of £1,000 for him.
Thinking he was going to make a great bargain, still refused.
Sir Francis, the Crown Marquis, took to Miss Fogg aside to beg him to reflect before he went any further, to which that gentleman replied that he was not in the habit of asking luxuries of all.
Say that the elephant was absolutely necessary to him, and that he would secure him if he had to pay 20 times his value.
Returning to the Indians, the whose sharp eyes and reasonings of the avarice they betrayed that with him it was only a question of how great price they would learn. £1,500, £1,800, £2,000. Passepartout, usually so rubicund, was fairly white with suspense. Yeah, at £2,000, the Indian yelled, "The water flies." Good heavens, cried Passepartout's poor elephant. It was the main outfit the final guy, which was comparatively easy. I got just 1 minute.
Ace offered his services, which Mr. Fogg accepted, promising so generous a reward as to materially stimulate his zeal. The elephant was led out and equipped.
The party toward accomplished, the elephant driver was covered his back with a sort of saddle cloth attached to each of his flanks, some curious and uncomfortable sound of the
Phileas Fogg paid the Indian with some banknotes which he extracted from the famous carpet bag, a proceeding that seemed to deprive poor Passepartout of his victuals.
Then he offered to carry Sir Francis to Allabalough, which is the brigadier's great reception. I want to represent them more. We would not be like fatigue, the giant beast.
Provisions were purchased at Golby, and while Sir Francis and Mr. Fogg took the howdahs on either side, Passepartout got astride the saddlecloth between them.
The party posted himself on the elephant's neck, and on a cloud they set out from the village, the animal marching off through the dense forest of the pond by the short skirt.
End of chapter 11.
Yeah, and done.